Okay, I think we can start now, guys. So good afternoon, good morning, everybody. So as I said last time, the first step to do your research, you have to do literature review or literature search. Okay. So today I'm gonna give you more details on what you have to do exactly. So as I told you last time, once you decide or identify a research area, so you have to see what has been done in this area, what are the knowledge in this area, okay? How the people try to solve the problem, okay, you are considering in this area, okay? And then that's what we call literature review. Very important to understand what has been done in the literature so that you can define your contribution. If you don't understand what the people have done, how can you compare to them? That's what we call contribution. What is the difference between you and others, okay? So for example, as I told you last time, you may consider a case no one else considered before. For example, maybe you are gonna do the same thing like others, but your system needs less overhead, less communication, less computation, or your approach is less expensive, okay? Or it has higher efficiency. There should be some improvement, okay? And you can define this improvement, or you should know what is this improvement. So here we'll show you how successful authors structure quality work to improve their chances of being accepted, okay? You will find practical tips on how to select. Okay, yeah, sorry, this is an introduction. Okay, here. Your research problem must contribute new and important knowledge to your field. This is what we call contribution. What is new? Okay, novelty. A review of the published literature will help you to determine if this is the case. Okay, you must be able to show reviewer and reader that you understand what work has been done before. Okay, and your research adds some new understanding to the field. Okay. Some, although not all, of the resources you identify in the literature review will become references in your work. As I told you, in your thesis, if you publish a paper, you have to put references, what we call references, okay? Or as I told you, the idea is that your work you have to build on what has been done before. That's always the case. As I told you, when we created 5G now, we didn't start with 5G, right? We had 1G, we improved it to 2G. This is the nature of our life, right? See how everything around us actually see how the cars in the beginning, how the cars look like, and see how the cars now. So anyway, so same thing when you do your research, you have to build on others. Okay, that's what we call. So what I'm saying here, you may look at many papers, okay, but that doesn't mean all these papers are going to be in your thesis or in your references. But for sure, some of them should be the main ones. Maybe you can look some papers and you find these papers are not very related, or some papers they don't have a big contribution. You just ignore, okay. So they will be used in the introduction, okay? So some of them we use them in the introduction. In the introduction, as I'm going to explain later, introduction, again, in thesis, in paper, we have a section, okay, or a chapter in case of thesis. We have a chapter called introduction, okay? In the introduction, you need to define the problem. You need to explain how the problem is very important, okay? In order, usually when we do that, you have to refer to some references, okay? For example, if I want to make a system that can make driving more safe, okay? So I want to make more, my story more solid. So I can refer to some statistics that show a lot of people die every year because of car accident and so on. Okay, so usually we refer to some, for example, what we call a smart power grid, for example. Okay, so when I say there is something called a smart power grid, I can refer to some references that explain more details. So anyway, we use references in the introduction and other sections as well, and the discussion section to show how we are making any. Also, yeah, in the introduction, usually in the introduction, we also make, we define our contribution briefly. Also, as I said, you have another section, we call it related works or literature review. You can elaborate also about your contribution. Finally, a review of the literature will help you select. This is also another important thing, guys. When you do the literature review, it should help you to decide where you can submit your paper. I always tell my students, when you read a paper, you should learn a lot of things. It's not only most of the students only focus on the technical part of the paper, okay? But actually, there are a lot of things you can learn from papers. Number one, you can see, for example, if we talk about writing, see how the people write papers. They're very easy and to try to learn, okay? But again, I'm saying it's easy, but actually it's not that easy. But what I'm saying, when you read a paper, try to pay attention to how the people write the paper, what should be in the abstract, what should be in what usually most of the people are doing in the writing the abstract, in the introduction. Just follow the people. That's very easy way to learn. Just follow what the people are doing. Okay. You can learn a lot of things. You can learn, for example, how the people evaluate their work. Okay. For example, if you propose a new idea, you need to evaluate this idea. Okay. You need to do either some people do simulation, some people do practical implementation. So this again is different from one research area to another. So you need to see what usually the people do in this area. They most of the time they do simulation, or most of the time they do reference. Another thing you can learn, very important what I'm telling you here. Another thing also figures. Okay, when the people usually use figures. Okay. How they make figures, okay? Is that necessary to use figure, or maybe writing is not enough? So sometimes, if I want to express my idea, if I use figure, it's much better than writing many words, okay? Sometimes, okay? So you can learn a lot of these things from the papers, because always keep in mind, this is the product. This is the final product. You have to do something like that after you finish your research, okay? So one more thing you can learn also, you can see, it can also help you to decide later after you do your paper where you can submit your paper. Okay, I told you very simple rule. For sure, your advisor should have more experience. He should know where this paper has to go. Okay, because I told you before, if you submit this paper to somewhere that is, the contribution expectation is this amount, and your contribution is this amount, you are wasting your time. Okay, it's not gonna be accepted. Okay, it's the same thing if you have this contribution and you decide to go to a place that has this contribution, also you are gonna lose credit. Okay, because you are not gonna publish it in a very high or top place. Okay, and you know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows if this journal is good one or this is a bad one. Everybody knows in the research area. So the rule I told you, very simple rule. Okay, if I want to go for a certain journal, okay, or IEEE transaction or journal or Wiley, Severe, or Springer, wherever you want to go. Okay, very simple rule. Try to see the papers published in this conference. If your paper is similar to this paper regarding everything, regarding number of pages, regarding contribution, if they're similar, okay, so you can go for this place because it's similar, right? So you can see it in the other way. If I want to go for a journal, you have to see what is expected from you to be published in a journal. You understand what I'm saying, guys? So this also you have to be smart when you read a paper, okay? You know, there are some different publisher. Maybe some of you are not very familiar with it yet. So we have different publishers. Okay, for sure the most IEEE is the most prestigious, the most famous publisher, especially in engineering. But there are other people. We have Wiley, we have Springer, okay, we have Elsevier. So there are other publisher. So under everyone here, you can see there are conferences and there are journals and so. Okay. So when you look at your paper, see where it is published. Is that a conference? Is that a journal? Okay. And you will understand a lot of things. If it is a conference, you will see what is the expectation for a conference. If it's a journal, you can see what is the expectation of a journal. Okay. You will understand the other stuff. Okay. You can. Okay. So now, to find the literature that is mostly relevant to your work, you need to search the internet. Okay. For example, I decided to do research in a certain area, so I need to see the papers published in this area. Okay. To do that, now luckily we have Google, we have other tools to search the internet. So to do that, you can need to search the internet to see the papers that has been published in your research area. You can use Google Scholar. Okay, I'm not sure if you are familiar with Google. You know Google, yeah, you have Google Web and you have Google Scholar. Okay, you can use Google Scholar. Google Scholar is similar to Google, but it focuses on publications and on papers. Also, but the most important thing, you have to select suitable keywords. And this is the tricky part. Okay, you have to select keywords. Okay, so keywords related to your research area. Okay, so for example, if you want to do wireless transfer, if you write wireless transfer, maybe wireless transfer is too broad. So if you write it, you will find many papers that are unrelated. So you need to narrow it down. Okay, so you can say wireless transfer, and you can say, for example, if you want to focus on a certain technique, okay, like capacitive wireless transfer. So because maybe under wireless transfer, there are different approaches. You got what I'm saying? So, and maybe you're not very familiar. So when you search, if you put quotation, that means this word or this phrase must exist in the text. You got what I'm saying? Maybe you are gonna write some words here and you search in some papers. It maybe it's gonna give you one paper that doesn't have all of them, but if it has quotation means it should have this paper. Otherwise, it's not gonna be presented to you. Okay. The other thing here, IEEE Explorer. I'm gonna show you now a picture for IEEE Explorer. IEEE Explorer is gonna search only in IEEE. Okay. Honestly, most of the time I use Google Scholar, because Google Scholar include IEEE and the other publisher, but this one is only for IEEE. Okay. My opinion, try to avoid Google Web. Okay, because for example, wireless transfer, you are looking for a paper, right? So it's much better to use Google Scholar. If you use Google Web, maybe there is some company that is doing some wireless transfer, and so they may give you like some public information that you are not looking for that, right? You are looking for papers. So again, my opinion, yeah, if you are looking for papers, you have to use Scholar. Another issue here. Okay, so some papers are open access. Oops. As I'm going to explain later what I mean by open access. Open access means you don't need to have account to open this paper. That's what we mean by open access. So some papers are open access. So once you go to Google Scholar, you can open it and you can see it. Okay, it's for free. That's what I want to say. Okay, but some papers, especially journals, okay, You can download it from TTU network, because TTU has some membership or account with them. So once, if you look from home, okay, and especially for IEEE journals, you can try to download IEEE journal from home. It's going to give me username and password. But if you try from TTU network, it's going to give you the paper right away, because TTU pays some money to IEEE so that we can have these resources. Okay, so another issue here, you can also ask the library to download or to buy some papers, especially conference papers. Okay, as far as I know, here in TTU, we have membership, or we can access journal papers, but sometimes we have problem with conference papers. Okay, so but in the library there is some way you can ask them to bring this paper to you. Okay, you can also, what other things you can do, you can even email the authors. You can email the authors requesting the papers. It happens a lot. Okay, so you can because once you do search, okay, what is free, what you can see is the abstract, the authors, the affiliations of the authors. That's it. You can see the content of the paper. If you read the abstract, unfortunately, you can see the title. If you read the title and see the abstract and you feel like this paper is interesting to you, okay, and you try to, it's not open access, you try to download it from TTU, didn't work, you try to use the library somehow the library, it is slow. When you make a request, they may reply back after a few days. Anyway, one of the options you have, you can just email the authors directly. My advice, try to email more than one author, because maybe you are gonna pick up the first name or one person. Maybe this person was a student like you, and he already graduated. You got what I'm saying? So he's not gonna, his email already is not used anymore because he already graduated. You understand what I'm saying? So try to or you can select some professor or email everybody on the paper. Please, I need this paper. Usually the people welcome to give them their work. You know why? Yeah.
Is it because don't they not get a lot of money from publishers, like when they?
Sorry, say it again.
So, like, if you publish a paper, doesn't the author not get a lot of money from publishers, if any?
Authors have to pay to the publisher. Okay. Okay. I tell you, it's really a funny story. It's not. I don't know. It's very silly, very funny. This is how it works. Okay. Look at IEEE. Number one, when I get paper published, okay, I have to pay fees to publish it. Sometimes it's too much money. Sometimes it's $1,800 for one paper. Is that okay? Sometimes they tell you up to 8 pages. It's free. Any paper, any page above the 8, you have to pay $200. Okay, I'm talking about journals. Also, conferences are very expensive. Okay, so this is your work. Okay, in order to publish it, okay, you have to pay money to them, and then let me finish. And then when they get your work, they sell it to the people. So they put it in IEEE, anyone. Believe me, that's how it works. If anybody, okay, wanna download your work, so they take your work, and not only that. Number one, I did the work. Some people like me, volunteers, they don't take any money, review the work. You get what I'm saying? So the work is done by someone. Yeah, I don't benefit financially. I don't take money out of it. Even the review is done by other people. Okay, and then they take money from me. They sell it to the other people. Okay, not only that, they don't give me any credit. Every year I have to pay some money for membership. So they don't even reduce this membership money. I have the same money. Not only that, even myself, even if I contribute by many papers, still if I need a paper from other people, I have to pay. Anyway, that's
So what do the publishers actually do?
Huh?
What do the publishers actually do?
What they do is,
It's something to do.
no, this is a very good question because they cannot only take money, they have to do something, right?
You'd have to do something.
Yes, they have to do something.
I see.
Number one, is they have servers. So you put your work on a server.
It's a secret, it's not that big.
They manage.
I could do that.
They manage the server to make sure it's accessible all the time. Okay. What only they do one thing after your paper is accepted, they do something like proofreading to your work. But this is it's not like extensive or it's not very careful proofreading. They just take a quick look. It doesn't take much time. This is the only thing they can do. Anyway, but this is how it is. That is why you can see many people now, or many publishers started to go for what we call open access. Okay, as I'm going to explain later, you know there is something called IEEE access, or the idea of the open access is there are two types of papers. One paper we call it open access. Open access means once it's accepted, they are going to get money from the author. As I told you, for IEEE, I pay around $1,800, okay, for a single paper, okay. But this paper, they are not gonna make money out of this paper because it's open access, right? They already got they got money from me. You know what I'm saying? So they put it online. Anybody, you don't need account to download this paper. We call it open access, okay? Or it's called IEEE access. Even there is one journal. It's called IEEE access. Even recently, okay, this is open access. This journal is open access. Recently, they started even for the regular journals, which they are not open access. After the paper access, this is something they started to do recently, few years ago. After the paper is accepted, they are going to ask you. You have the option. Do you want your paper to be open access or not? Okay. But if it is open access, you have to pay. You get what I'm saying? So, but this one doesn't. IEEE access doesn't have option. IEEE access always open access. Anyway, you have a question?
I mean, what's the reason for going like, as like, none of these authors actually like said, hey, let's not. If you had enough people, I mean, can you do your own publisher, or is that not a thing?
Why? No, your question is that why the authors do the work?
Yeah, these authors do the work. Publishers don't do anything. So
okay,
why
because for a faculty member like me, I want to promote. Okay, I'm assistant. I want to promote to associate. If I'm associate, I want to promote to full professor. Okay, to promote, I need to show that I have published a lot of papers. You got what I'm saying? Someone like you, a master student or PhD student, you want to get a degree. You got what I'm saying? You have to show you already published your work. This is, but I wish they give us some money, but they don't. Even for reviewing, even when I review any paper, it's just volunteer work. You got what I'm saying? We don't get any money out of it.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Does that mean that when you become a professor, you stop publishing?
No, you still need to publish because every year I have to submit to my boss, to the department chair, what we call annual report. I have to show my activity, okay? So if I claim that I did 30% of my time was for research, okay, what is the outcome? So even if you are a full professor, okay, number one, if you have students, your students need to publish to graduate. This is one thing. Other thing, already what we do, I have to take, for example, I'm going to do 60% of my time teaching or whatever, 30% for research. Okay, you did research. Okay, what is the outcome? You got what I'm saying?
Yes.
Another important thing, if you have projects, you know when we apply for funding, there are several agencies here in US and around the world that can give you money so that you can do research. Like NSF, I'm not sure if you are familiar with NSF or not, but NSF, National Science Foundation. This is a federal agency. They give money to the researcher to do some research. Okay, when they give you money, again you have to write reports. You have to tell what progress you did in your research. Okay, so how, if you don't publish, how can you show your progress? So we still need to publish. Some papers are also posted on the author's personal website. Okay, we are going to talk about this also. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, sometimes it may be useful to search for the paper on Google Web sometimes, because if it is published, many authors publish their work, their paper on their personal website. Okay, I asked a question, but I forget to answer this question. I told you here when I told you you can email the authors to request the paper, and usually the authors welcome to do that. Okay, why they welcome? They welcome because once you get my paper, with a very high chance, if you do research in the same area, you are gonna cite this paper in your work. Okay, so you are gonna cite it in your work. Okay, and this is gonna increase my citation. Okay, so also this is also most of the people look at citation. The more citations I have, that means I'm doing good research. Or okay, so one way to evaluate the researchers to see how many papers they have, where they publish their papers, they publish in good places or not. Also, another thing, you can look at citations. Okay, how the people in the field cite your papers. Okay, so the people like that. Sometimes, again, another thing, sometimes we do, if you read the paper and you don't understand some parts, or you need some help, or something is not clear to you, you can send questions to the authors as well. Usually they respond, but again, don't expect they are going to spend too much time. So try to be very concise, try to be very specific in your question, okay? So they don't have time, they're gonna spend too much time to respond to you, because I'm saying something very quick or clarify something. Okay. Another thing now, once you identify a major document, okay, so my opinion is that, number one, you have to search for keywords. Once you search for keywords, you can see the title, the complete title. You can also read the abstract. If you feel from the title and abstract, this topic or this paper is related to me, you have to proceed. You have to move forward. Otherwise, just ignore it. You get what I'm saying? It's not good idea at all. I'm not saying, because you can look at too many papers, but you don't need to spend hours reading every single paper. That's what I want to say. So for every paper, look at the title. You look at the keywords. So every paper has keywords. Look and read the abstract. The abstract is very short, maybe 250 words or 300 words, just a small paragraph. You can read it. Once you feel this is interesting, now you can move to the introduction. Introduction is similar to the abstract. It gives you it tells a story in a very brief way, okay? After the introduction, you make a decision. Either this paper is not very related, it should be, okay? Or, no, this paper is very related to what I want to do, and then you can spend more time to read the paper, okay? So you have to be smart, because you don't want to waste a lot of time, okay? So you have to be smart, you have to know where you have to put your time. You get what I'm saying? So again, you have to look at too many papers, but that doesn't mean I have to read every paper deeply, or the complete paper. You don't need to do that. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's steps. Number one, look at the title. Title is okay. Look at the keywords. Keywords are okay. Move to the abstract. The abstract is okay. The abstract is going to give you the story very briefly. Then go to the introduction if it's still interesting to you. Introduction also should tell you the story, but in little bit more details. Okay. After the introduction, the picture should be clear. So now, what this paper is doing, what is the contribution, should be very clear. So after that, you can decide either you move forward or you just ignore the paper. Okay. So once you identify, another important thing here I want to tell you about, guys. Research is like a chain. I'm going to tell you how it is a chain. So if this is a paper, if this is a paper, okay, this paper should cite other papers. So it should cite some paper in the past. Okay, and also, also this paper, maybe some other paper already cited it in the future. You got what I'm saying? So if this is a paper you download it, and this paper is published, for example, in 2018, this paper usually cites some papers before, because I told you in research we build on what has been done. Okay. Also, some people already cited this paper. You got what I'm saying? So what I want to say is the following. The paper you download, maybe it's not the most recent results in the literature. You got what I'm saying? Maybe, for sure, that's not a good idea because maybe after you read this paper, you find the problem. But this problem already solved somewhere after this paper. You got what I'm saying? So the one way to avoid a problem like this, there is some way when you search for a paper, you can see who cited this paper. I always tell my students that. So once you find a paper and you find a problem, okay, the first thing before, you have to be smart about your type. So the first thing before you start working, yeah, I find a problem, now I can write a paper, okay? The first thing you have to do, you have to make sure no one has addressed this problem before, okay? The way you can do it, for sure, you can see what the people who cited this paper, and see what they said about this paper, okay? Have they improved something? Have they found some problems, whatever? Okay, again, when you go for, as you will see now, for Google Scholar or IEEE Explorer, you will see there is some way to get the papers who cited this paper, okay? The previous paper, you can find it here in this paper in the references. You got what I'm saying? So if you wanna know the previous papers, you can know from the references here. If you wanna know the new papers that cited this paper, this should be a search engine. Either use Google or IEEE Explorer. There's some way to know who cited this paper, and you can go to this paper to see if they have solved some problems here. Okay. Very important. Why, guys? Because when you define your contribution and you say we are the first people who address this problem, you have to make sure your statement is correct. If this has been done before, or if a reviewer finds another paper that already did this work before, for sure you will be in a big trouble. Okay, the reviewer is gonna one of the reasons the reviewer can reject the papers if they are not sure that you did a good related work. You got what I'm saying? If you if you did a good literature review. Okay, as a reviewer, if I feel like your literature review is not complete, this should be, that means maybe you didn't consider some papers, maybe some papers already solved the problem. You know what I'm saying? So once you identify a major document that is relevant to your research, it checks the references, and this reference should be the papers that done before. Okay, they will lead you to the research that laid the basis for your area of study. Okay. Use tools available in platforms like Google Scholar or IEEE Explorer to find works that cite this document, okay, you have identified. This will highlight more recent research results, So for example, if you look for something, like, for example, here I write ring signature, okay? So, and I think this is Google Scholar, as you see here. So you can see here, find the paper here, okay? And you can, when you click on this one, this is a PDF. That means you can get the PDF. It's open source. So it's open. You can get it from here. Okay. Also, you can see here it is cited by 670. Okay. You can click on this one. Once I click on this one, I can see all the papers that cited this paper. Okay. Also, you can look at the related articles somehow. Okay. Also, you can click here if you want to filter this results, if you want to filter them so that you look only since 2020. If you want to look only the papers that published in 2020 or the papers since 2019 and so on. Okay. Any questions? This is Google Scholar. Okay. Same thing if you go to, that's what I'm telling you, IEEE Explorer. It's also the same thing. You can search here. It's up to you. So you can see here, once I log in from Tennessee Tech, you can see here access provided by Tennessee Tech University. So it's already, I didn't do anything. I just, if I go now, you will see this one. You will see here, because once you access IEEE Explorer from, I don't need to enter any credentials. Just once you log in from here, from network, from Tennessee Tech network, it's that it's gonna see that you logged in from Tennessee Tech. Okay. Anyway, you can also search here. Once you search, for example, here I searched it for a single paper. Once you search, as I told you, you can see here, guys. It gives you the title, as you see here. It gives you the authors. It gives you the abstract. Okay. And now, because I can access this paper, it gives me this button here. Look here, PDF, because I can access it. Okay. If I don't access it, you're not gonna see this one. Okay. Also, if you wanna cite this paper, how you cite it, you can click on this one. So if you click in this one, it gives you the format of the citation. As I can explain later how you cite papers, but you don't need to do it by yourself. You just click on this one. Okay. So when you cite a paper, you need to write the names of the author. You need to write the title of the paper. You need to write the date where it is published. Okay. The volume, the issue, the date. Also, you have to write the page. Okay. So you have to write all of these things. Okay. But again, you don't need to do it by yourself. Just click on this one and you will see the format. Just use it. Okay? Remember, later we are going to talk about something called DOI. DOI, I think document, or I don't remember what this one stands for, but I think I means identifier, G means document. So this is a unique identifier for the paper. So every paper should have a DOI. DOI is like a unique identifier. Okay? Also, if you look here, paper citation, you can see who cited this paper. You can know, as we did here, as I told you here, you want to know who cited this paper, okay? And you may need to go to this paper to see how they cited it. Maybe, as I told you, maybe they already found some problems, okay? And they already solved the problems, okay? Another important thing, guys, and even by common sense, when you search for papers, try to look for recent papers, not old ones. You got what I'm saying? So I usually try to start, for example, 2020 or 2019, for example. Okay, I can tell you, if as a reviewer, I'm telling you how. If I look at the references of your paper and see all the references are old, 5-6 years back, all of them or most of them. For sure, you can have some references that are old. That's okay. That's okay. But I'm saying if most of them are old, okay. What it means to me as a reviewer? It means one of two things. Either you didn't do good search. Okay. For example, if the most recent paper you put in your references is 2012, we are talking about 8 years. Okay. So you are telling me there was no progress during these 8 years. Okay, so this should be one of two things. Either you didn't do good research, okay, and that means you build your study based on not the most recent results. Okay. Number two, or this problem is not very important. That's why the people didn't bother themselves to try to solve it for 8 years. You got. This is a very simple, so you have to be careful about this. This is like very naive mistakes. You understand what I'm saying? So try to, when you search, you have to look for recent papers. It is the same thing when you look for a research area. Okay, when you look for a research area, as I told you last time, try to look at the very recent conference papers, not journal papers. I'm going to tell you why. Because as I'm going to explain later in this course, if you submit a journal paper now to be shown online, sometimes it takes 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So if you see paper that's published in 2020 in some journals, I'm not saying all, in some journal, because this is usually what happens. It may take a year to get it accepted. So if I submit paper today, it's going to take a year to get it accepted. Once it is accepted, it's going to go to a queue, and then they publish volumes. As you see here, they have volumes. Okay, so you have to wait for the term. The paper has to wait its turn for the volume. You got what I'm saying? That means sometimes, believe me, sometimes it is, if your paper published in 2020 in some conferences, okay, it's actually submitted 2 years back. So it is not the most, although it is published in 2020, it's not the most recent results. You got what I'm saying? In the papers, if you open the paper, in journal papers, there is a footnote here. Usually there is a footnote here in the first page. In the first page, there is a footnote. It tells you when the paper is submitted, when the paper accepted, when it is published. You got what I'm saying? So you can see when it is submitted. Okay. So especially for journal, for sure journal has journals in general have very high quality research compared to conference papers, that's for sure. But the problem in journal, and most of the journals, as I told you, it is if something published today, that means it was submitted 2 years back. So you got what I'm saying? Is that clear? Except something like IEEE Access. IEEE Access, it's a recent. They try to solve this problem. They try to solve this delay, but by creating this journal, it's called IEEE Access. This journal has very fast review. You can get review in 1 month, very fast. Also, they publish quickly. So they are saying if you have a good piece of work and you want to get it published very soon, okay? Because 2 years is too much to wait 2 years until the people see your work already, especially in some research areas like communication, like data, like machine learning. Some research areas are moving very fast, right? So to solve this problem, I told you there is IEEE Access. This one can get the paper published very quickly. Okay, they made it to solve this problem. Another important thing many people are doing, and I want you to pay attention to it, is, listen to me. You understand what I'm saying? So we have a problem. The problem, if I submit a paper now to journal, it's going to take 2 years until the people see it. You know what I'm saying? So some people are now started to, many people do the following. There is something called preprint servers. Preprint servers. Okay? So what are these? I'm going to tell you what are these. So what happens, that's what many people started to do now. Once I write my paper now, I'm going to upload it on this server. And it's open access, everybody can see it. Is that okay? It's not peer reviewed yet. It is not peer reviewed, okay? So, but it's open now, everybody can see my result. Is that okay? And then after that, I can submit to a journal paper. It's gonna take 2 years or whatever, but already what? Already, number one, I spread my, I spread my research. Now the people can see my research. That's number one. Number two, I also, listen to me, no one can claim, like I reserve this idea under my name. You got what I'm saying? Because this is the thing. No one can claim this is, look, what if both of us had the same idea, for example, at the same time, and we submitted the idea to a journal, but this guy was luckier than me, and his paper got accepted first before me, right? So he's gonna get full credit, okay? And I'm gonna be somehow in trouble or less credit, whatever you call it, okay? So in this case, even if it's peer review, what happens in this server, once you submit something, I think they don't review it. Just even if it has mistakes, whatever it is, they know. But at least I reserve my idea, because once I post it, I should have date. So I am the person who made this idea at this time. You got what I'm saying? So even like the very famous one is Archive. I'm not sure he's familiar with this one. Archive is a Cornell. Let me search for it. Cornell University Archive. That's a very famous one. ERX, something like that. I don't remember now, but it's a very famous one. Okay. You can even find, I don't remember now the link, I can look for it later. But it's open server. I have account. Anyone can create account for this one, and you can publish. You can publish your paper. But for sure, this is non-peer review. Okay, so usually the people don't pay as much because anyone can write anything and publish. Usually, don't have too much weight. But that's why we don't only submit to this one. It's a very beginning. I submitted to this one, and then later I sent it to journal. Okay. There are different, there are different servers, but maybe it's a very common one. Even sometimes when you see, you can even cite in your paper, you can even cite some papers here. So for some people, you see some people writing something like I don't remember exactly the right, ERX something, okay, because this is in this archive. Okay. As you search, scan, that's what I said, scan the abstract, scan the keywords. There is no need to read through every document. As you read the professor, okay, maybe we are going to complete it, only 2 pages, and then we're going to go to E6. What time we should finish? At 10, right? 12, 10? Oh, sorry, okay. I thought 12, 5, okay. No, still have time, okay. So, as I said, number one, as I said, you don't need to read the whole paper. As I said, you can look at the abstract first, you can look at the title, you can look at the keywords. Okay. As you read the proposed works, you can write a summary for each paper. If you find, again, that's always the case. You can look at 100 papers, but at the end, you are going to focus on 4 or 5 papers. At the end, you are going to compare to 4 or 5 papers after you narrow it down. You got what I'm saying? So in your literature review, you can put a lot of papers, but your main focus will be at the end 4 or 5 papers. Okay, so you have to read them very carefully. Okay. So here you can write some summary on each paper. I think this is a very smart idea. You need to be smart. How? Once you read a paper and you feel like it's somehow related, you can write a very small summary using your own words about this one. You can put the citation. Because if you read this paper, okay, when you come later, you're not going to remember what this paper was about. You know what I'm saying? Also, that's my opinion. As you read papers, you can create the related work section. As you read papers, okay. Once I read something, I write something. Once I read a paper, I'm going to write something. But if you read and then don't write any summary of this paper, later you have to repeat the work again. So anyway, you can summarize in very few words, okay, what this paper is about, what this work is doing, okay, and then you have to look for research gaps or unstudied cases, okay, problems, limitations, assumptions, weak assumptions, okay. Usually, especially again, this may depend, change from one research to another. So at least in our case, at least in my research, for example, in security, we put some assumption. Okay, so for example, I can assume this server is trusted. Okay, so I want to protect it. I want to protect the application from the users, not the server. Okay, but what this is an assumption. This assumption. Okay, so my scheme is secure as long as the assumption is valid. What if the server misbehave, or the people who operate or runs the server misbehave? For sure, there is no security because again, I put assumption. I build my work is secure under this assumption. Okay. So one way to write papers, if you can relax this assumption. If I say the people in the literature assume the server is trusted. Okay. In reality, this may not be the case. In this paper, so there is again, I'm saying this, so in order to find, as I said, number one, you have to make literature review. Number two, in the literature review, you have to find problems, you have to find limitations, you have to find something you improve. If you don't find anything, everything is perfect, you cannot do research, right? So you have to find limitation, you have to find research gaps. Gaps means something, a case no one studied this case before, okay? And this is different, okay? Or weak assumption, you want to solve it, you want to relax the assumption, okay? This can be the motivation to your paper, motivation, okay? Why you want to do a new work. Okay? Once you are confident that you have solved an important problem or completed a set of experiments and analyzed the result and done literature search, it is time to decide what to include in your manuscript and how to present it, okay? This is always, okay, my opinion, that's what I always tell my students. This is 90% of the paper, okay? If I find maybe one paragraph, the paper is maybe 13, 14 pages, but one paragraph is 90% of the paper. Why? Because this one should have the intellectual contribution. Okay. Everything else in the paper, I tell the users, I tell my students, it doesn't need any intellectual contribution. Everything. Once I tell you in the literature we have this problem and we're going to solve it this way. This can be one paragraph. This is 90%. After that, you are going to write abstract. You are going to do some experiment to prove it's correct. You are going to write whatever. You can all of the other things here. Just need some time. This is only 10%. Because you may spend a whole year, okay, just looking for this part, the limitations, the problem, and the solution. You understand what I'm saying? Writing and figures, experiment, anybody can do it, right? It's not difficult. The difficult part is usually the intellectual. What is new? What is the difference between you and others? What are the motivations? How can you solve it? Okay? To decide which reference help you to make the case that your work is new and significant. What conclusion you can draw from your research. An outline will organize your writing and keep your tongue off on tangent. It will help you develop a logical structure. Your outline, use phrases, complete things. Yeah. So what I'm saying here, you can do something like outline. Outline. It doesn't need to be first draft. When you write a paper, you have to write something in the beginning. You have to start with something, okay? And then you improve it, okay? The first thing you write, it may not for sure. Because the case is not perfect, right? You can write some new outline. This outline can be one page, just explain what are the idea. Can be some phrases, can be. It doesn't need to be like perfect English, okay? But later for sure you have to. We just give me one. Just I want to finish this section so that next time we start. Scientific articles, as I'm going to teach you later, should follow a standard structure. As you will see later, you have to write. There should be a section, or in case of your thesis, there should be a chapter about introduction, problem formulation, previous research, your methodology, and conclusion. So usually scientific writing has a specific structure. You have to follow this structure. You got what I'm saying? You can see even the papers. All the papers are using this structure. Okay. Start by brainstorming about all the ideas and data you want to include. Then group related ideas together. Arrange your information into subsection. Begin with general information and then move to more specific ideas. Then create heading, subheading, and so on. Okay. So let me tell you the conclusion. Just one minute, so that you can leave quickly. Again, guys. So once you decide a simple research area, you have to do literature review. You have to know what the people have been done. You have to identify limitation. You have to determine your motivation, why you want to do new work, right? Are there some gaps, some limitations, something you need to improve? So, okay, once you have this, you can for sure you can start writing your paper. But for sure, if you don't have limitation according to the literature, you cannot write a paper. Okay. Another important thing, guys, maybe you find as you read, because this is research. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read, and then I'm gonna write like, yeah, well, this can be improved, and I can write something, then write something. Maybe I identify, maybe I can identify 10 or 20 limitations. But I cannot solve, for sure, if you can solve all of them. Also, keep in mind this is the research. This is usually difficult to problems. It's not assignment. Okay, for sure, I wanna do perfect work, but sometimes it's not doable. It's a research. It's a difficult problem. So you can have like 10 limitations, but if you can solve one or two problems, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to solve everything. Is that okay? Also, in the beginning, that's what I tell my students. In the beginning, the picture is not clear. So it's like, for example, I find something, so it's like one dot. I found something, one dot, one dot, one dot. So I tell my students to just make dot, and then we can see how can we connect the dots so that we can make the paper. Okay, just write to make brainstorming. Write your thoughts. What are your thoughts about this paper? Okay, what limitation, what can be improved, and so on. Okay, and then maybe you can identify 3-4 problems, and you can connect. Because when you write your own paper, you have to make like story. The we will do this and we didn't do that, and I'm gonna do it for something like story. Anyway, so any question? Okay.